All right, what's going on, everybody? This is the Boiler Express podcast. We've got a little bit of a different format tonight. Usually, I've got four other guys here with me hanging out, but tonight we're just doing a one-on-one. So there's been a lot going on with Purdue athletics, just in general. Basketball is number one. Football, we just got our new head coach, and so there's just been so much going on. And so, this year, Devin Mockobee, the starting running back for Purdue, ended up breaking the single season rushing record. And so I thought it would be great to have the guy that previously held that record to come on here to talk about that a little bit, talk about Purdue, this new coach and everything, and just kind of catch up with Markell and see how he's doing. So Markell, welcome to the Boiler Express podcast, man. We love having you on.
Oh, I appreciate it. Second time, man. I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate you guys having me back. A
Yeah,
lot of fun
absolutely.
stuff to talk about in the Purdue Boilermaker Nation. Excited.
Absolutely. I think that's becoming like a marquee saying now for Purdue is, it's a perfect time to be a Boilermaker. There's never been a better time to be a Boilermaker. And I feel like that's
Absolutely.
so true right now. So
Mm-hmm.
really cool stuff. But so the last time you were on, we were actually really early into the season. We were only 4 games in. At that point, Purdue was 2-2. So lost two really close games to Penn State and Syracuse. Won a really close game against FAU and then blew out Indiana State. So at that point in the season, how were you feeling about Purdue football? Did you think they were going to go finish the season, 6-2, go 8-4, and then win the West?
Yeah, I had a really good feeling, and I'll tell you why. Well, so
Awesome.
DJ Knox is a part of the staff. I have communicated with DJ all year, so I got a little bit of an inside track on the
Love
team.
that.
Not in some of the inside out things, but as far as the feel around the team, and that's you can really tell how good a team's going to be based on how they feel, and the basically the atmosphere surrounding the program, and they were feeling good. And so just based on that information alone, I felt like DJ was telling me they were going to win the West. He told me that. Now I've heard this since I've been at Purdue. Maybe
Right.
starting in 16, 17. You used to hear these things, but he felt very, very strongly about it this year, and they got it done. I think that I had a lot of faith in Purdue, and I probably said it on the last time I was on with you guys,
Yeah.
just as far as a very close loss to Penn State, a very close should have won against Syracuse. So
Mhm.
there was a lot of things, small things that you can correct throughout the course of a football game to put you over the top in some of those games. So yeah, I mean, I can't say that I knew we were gonna be playing Michigan in the Big Ten West and the Big Ten
Yeah.
championship game, but I felt pretty good about the rest of the year at that point.
Yeah. And you're totally right. I mean, we were 2 last-minute drives away from being 10-2,
Yeah.
and that would have been insane. That would have been the second time Purdue's ever had a 10-win season in its entirety. So,
Has a
really
coach
just
ever left after a 10-2 season? Is that what do we need to win those two games to keep Brom? Was that the recipe?
I don't think so. I think home was calling, and I don't think there was anything we could. I think Purdue could have went 12-0 and is playing in the college football championship, and he might have stayed to play through that, but I think he still would have been out the door.
I think I agree with you.
Um, yeah, but so and what's funny is the last time that when we were talking about Purdue and the running game a little bit, after that FAU game, Mockobee wasn't even a real regular part of the offense. He wasn't the starter. He wasn't getting a lot of touches in the games. He got some there at the end of Indiana State and a little bit against Syracuse, but really wasn't a main guy. Not on a lot of people's radars, at least not mine.
Mhm.
Downing was actually the guy. He had a 113-yard game against FAU, and so did you have at that point in time, was there any, and you, like you said, you talked to DJ a little bit, did you have any kind of inklings, gut feelings, or anything that, Mockobee was going to continue to develop and turn into the freshman running back that he was for the rest of the year?
I don't think that anybody saw him being as good as he ended up being,
Yeah.
but they knew what they had in that room all year. And quite frankly, it was political why he didn't play from the beginning of the season. Simply being a walk on, I don't think they wanted the optic. And that's just based on word of mouth from
Yeah.
I went to the spring football, the last spring practice they had. I'm sorry, the last summer practice they had, their scrimmage, and Mockabee broke off like a 60+ yard carry. And Barclay told me, like, this kid right here, he's going to play this year. He's going to be very good this year. And so I knew at that point that if I believe wholeheartedly in Coach Barkley. So I knew that if he saw that talent, then I knew that kid was going to be special. Um, but again, I feel like it's simply because of the fact of him coming in as a walk on, and I think there was probably some I don't know what you want to call it, ego or something about not wanting to play him initially. But once the pieces fell into place, it's next man up, and you got to step up and you got to produce, and that's exactly what he did. I think the kid stays ready, so you don't got to get ready, and that's the moniker of a really good instinctive football player,
Yeah.
and for in his case, a good running back.
Yeah, and you could tell, when he got put into that Indiana State game there in the second half, he was ready to go. I think it was his first or second run. He ended up, scoring that touchdown really quickly, and like you said, it probably wasn't a surprise to anybody on the team how good he was, but it was just great to see him develop into the player that we all know and love. I think you can definitely tell that not only did Devin become a fan favorite, but I feel like his whole family is kind of a fan favorite. They just seem like some really good-hearted, down-to-earth people. And so, we all couldn't be happier for Devin and the success that he's having. And so, after that, he started to become a mainstay in the offense, especially after you were on the podcast. He ended up running for 112 yards against Minnesota, had that insane breakaway run there, I think in the fourth quarter, where it was maybe like a 60-yard run or so, and juked that guy, juked him out of his pants. It was crazy. And his ability to cut and miss people is just something I haven't seen a lot in running backs at Purdue, and it's really just awesome to see that. And so he ended up having out of the next 9 games that we had for the rest of the year, he had 500+ yard rushing games. With his best one coming against Nebraska, he had a 178-yard rushing game against them. So, I guess, from our last question, you probably weren't that surprised, but were you surprised at all at how much, Purdue started to implement the run in their offense after, Mockobee started to kind of get that momentum going, started to roll a little bit? Were you surprised at all at how much Purdue implemented the run?
No, I don't think I was surprised, only for the fact that a lot of the defenses we were playing against, eventually they started keying in on Charlie Jones. And, Aiden, for as great as he is, and he had a heck of a season again this year, especially going through the things he was going through down the stretch there.
Absolutely.
So for him to be able to step up to the plate and still continue to play for us was huge. But ultimately, Charlie was like star number one. And then behind him, we had a couple of other receivers who were doing some things for us occasionally. So you've got to find a way to be two-dimensional. And so in our case, it was going to be the run game. And again, they knew what we had in Mockobee. Yeah. The offensive line was doing their job. And so I don't really find – I think that it's good to have balance. Everyone, especially, the fans now, they're going crazy on Twitter about this defensive coordinator. Oh, are we going to play offense still? Like, of course. But so I just think that it's just a matter of, being tough and showing that presence. And the Big Ten is about running the football. And if you can mix in a good passing game, then you'll be better off for it. But no, I don't think it was any surprise there. And I was happy to see it too, especially. And I think it helped us on some of these longer drives that we were able to carry out, controlling the clock, managing that, and keeping the defense off the field so they can get some rest. Because a lot of times like we talked about, whenever they have the pass heavy offense, we're getting those quick turnovers, and then defense has got a lot of pressure on them. So I think it's good for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was surprised. I'm not gonna lie, I was definitely surprised at how much they started to implement the offense. I remember being at the Nebraska game with Chris, one of the guys that's on the podcast here, and like I said earlier, Mockobee went for 178 yards in that game, and that's just not. We were all just shocked. I mean, we all knew he was good. We all knew that he was building that momentum, but just seeing him just tear apart a defense was just a really cool thing to see. And so, final game of Purdue's, season, not up to this point, was against Michigan in the Big Ten championship, where Mockobee ran for, I think it was like 75 yards or 90 yards or something like that. And he ended up breaking that single season rushing record. So, I'm sure you watched the game. So was there any kind of feeling about that? Or is it like a cool thing to pass off the torch? How was that?
So I wasn't at the game. I missed the last part. My dog is acting crazy over here. What was the last part of that? Sorry.
Yeah, no. So just I'm sure you caught the game in one way or another, whether it was watching it there on TV. And so Mockobee ran for like 75, 90 yards. I can't remember the exact number, and ended up breaking that single season rushing record. And so, how was there any feeling in that for you? Were you excited for him? Was it cool to pass off the torch? Were you like, oh man, I thought I was going to hold on to this for a little bit longer? What was that like?
I think I went through waves of all those different emotions,
Oh
but I
yeah.
think first and foremost, I was definitely happy for the guy because he's earned it. And it's funny because I was the night before I was kind of chit chatting with Coach Barkley and DJ about that exact thing, and definitely obviously happy for the kid, especially the fact that I don't think, like you mentioned, he didn't really play the first 4 games, so he's going off of limited carries,
Hmm.
but the carries actually match up pretty well. But as far
Yeah.
as his attempts per games. I mean, he lost 4 games because he didn't really play those games. So, I mean, his ceiling is so high, which I think was the most impressive thing about it. And then the fashion that he did it. I think he's mentioned he had 500-yard games. Like, that's impressive as a true
Yeah.
freshman coming in, especially with kind of your back against the wall in a sense. Like, he came in with no expectation, which maybe allowed him to play free.
Yeah.
You don't have to go out there and worry about, like, if you're a king, Doru, and you're worried about, like, oh, if I get hurt, if I go down, then I may not see the field as much. He was able to just let it all loose and just play his game. And I think it's a credit to him, the way he prepares and
Yeah.
where he's from. I'm sure that has a lot to do with the fight and the effort, because being some of these smaller schools, like even the high school I went to, you don't get as much exposure as far as the national level when it comes to recruiting. And so he was an under-recruited guy, maybe had just the 1 or 2 offers and such. So he bet on himself, and it paid off in a big way.
Yeah, and so Maccabee's actually from around my area, around the Evansville, Boonville area, really small
Yeah.
area. And so, yeah, I'm familiar with the competition that he played against. And, as the season went on, I started talking to people that went to different schools that played football there while Maccabee was there. And every single one was like, God, he torched us. God, he torched us. We couldn't, they all talked about how slippery he was and how it was like impossible to tackle him. And,
Yeah, that's why
that,
Barkley calls him Soap.
yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, so yeah, just really cool to see him succeed like that. And like you said, I think that he just has that mentality of like he's going to work, he's going to be prepared. So when that opportunity does come, he's ready to strike. Um, so yeah, really really cool stuff. And so, um, kind of transitioning away from Maccabee a little bit. There we've had some stuff going on with Purdue football this last week. Like we talked about earlier. Coach Brom got the call from Louisville, and he ended up going home. We all knew that was kind of not a matter of if, but kind of when, just
Yeah.
with the passion and love that he has for not only the school but the city. With all of his family there and everything. And so, um, that coaching search happens, and it's we were a good 6 days into it before Babinski, hats off to him. He kept that locked, sealed, hidden from everybody. I mean,
Yeah.
even like the gold and black riders, maybe they knew more than they let on, but just reading their stuff, it didn't really seem like they were in the know. So, and I think that's, hats off to Babinski. But how were you feeling when that coaching search was going on?
I mean, in a sense, I was just kind of letting it play out in front of me
Yeah.
on Twitter. It was kind of an entertaining thing to go through. I don't really like to comment a whole bunch on different people's posts, but just looking through all the comments and seeing everybody's opinion, everyone's got like a different feel and vibe and who they were expecting. And obviously, I think this candidate, Coach Walters, it threw everybody for, a bind in a sense.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody expected, for especially just the way that they've hired coaches here, to go for a guy who's as young as he is and as up and coming as he is. But and we talked about it based on the press conference that he had today. I mean, that dude was super impressive. I think that he blew a lot of people away, and I also believe that he probably pulled in a lot of people that were those naysayers and like, oh man, this is such a terrible hire. And but I
Yeah.
will say, those 6 days were a long time, especially I'm just looking at like, oh, we got a fourth decommitment, and I'm also thinking about all these scenarios where you've got Coach Brian Brom in the
Yeah.
building still, and then you've got the DC, not English, the other guy.
Hagen.
You got Hagen in the building, and I'm just like, man, if we don't start making some moves quickly, I'm just seeing, how things, obviously these guys have already declared that they're going to go to Louisville.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're in our building with our kids, it didn't sit right with anybody. So that was a stressful little situation. But I don't think I could be any happy with the hire. I love it, honestly, and I'm just really excited now. Now the watch is really on to see who he picks for OC.
Oh, I know, right? And now you've got that rumor mill swirling around everywhere. And
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm really happy with the hire too. You know, I didn't know a lot about him. I knew that I had heard that he was like a potential. He was a name that was kind of thrown out there. Didn't really know much about him. But you know, saw that he took Illinois to being ranked like 121st in the PFF rankings to like second or
yeah,
fourth, I think it was.
yep. I
Just
believe it
an
was second.
insane turnaround in 2 years.
Yeah,
Um, and that's something we had our podcast last night, our weekly podcast, and that was something that we were talking about is so many people are afraid of having a defensive minded coach who, you know, we find out today he played quarterback. I don't know if it was in college, but you know, at least in high school, he grew and his dad, you know, he grew up around football, grew up around, you know, high powered offense. So that's something that he wants and he talked about a lot. I feel like that was a question or just a statement he kept having to answer, repeat, you know, throughout the
yeah,
day just to really drive it home. But you know, that was something we were talking about last night. Is it's so funny how for basketball at Purdue, it's play hard, defense lives here. We have a turnover counter for God's sakes. You know, we're all about defense. We want people diving for loose
right.
balls.
So we should
We
appreciate this
want
guy.
we
Heck
want
yeah,
people going. We want people like all up in each other's grills when they're playing defense. But now that it's football, we're like, I don't know. Let's just
yeah,
throw the ball really well. It's just funny to see that polar opposite, you know, kind of identity. And I get it that, you know, Purdue's identity is the cradle of quarterbacks, but it's also the den of defensive ends. And
mhm,
I wouldn't mind building a new identity where people are scared to come play at Ross-Ade Stadium because they know they're gonna go 3-and-out over and over and over again.
yeah.
We're gonna mess with the quarterback. I would love to build that new identity.
Absolutely. And a lot of people say that the best offense is a good defense. Defense wins
Yeah.
championships. All these different sort of quotes and things. I love the way that they're going to go with it. I love what he said today. He said controlled chaos is what
Yeah.
his philosophy is. Controlled chaos, and I think that's a beautiful term. And I would love to see it in action. It's going to be like that old Tiller days, but especially on the other side of the ball, where it wasn't Tiller like a ballet on grass. Well, there was some on grass.
Basketball on grass. Yeah.
Basketball on grass. Okay, so now we got this controlled chaos defense, and he's proven himself. Like you said, I love the fact that's one thing that Purdue hasn't done really well, in my opinion, is getting turnovers. And this
Yeah.
guy led I think the country, and they're like number one in turnovers or
Yeah.
defensive scoring or something. There's some category. Like
Yeah.
the dude knows what he's doing, and I think it's very interesting that he has his own system, as he calls it. It's like his defense. There's not really a name for it. He's
Yeah.
not really a 3-4. He's not really a 4-3.
The secret
He's a
sauce.
multiple defense, the secret sauce, man. So, and he's also just got swag, and I think that that's something that the kids can relate to. He's young. I think he's going to energize that building. I also love the hire because he's in Illinois, so he's been there 2 years. He understands the recruiting pool that he's in the area of. He's in
Yeah.
the Big Ten Midwest country, so I think he'll be able to recruit well here, and even maybe out
Yeah.
in Colorado, since that's where he's played and is from. So hopefully he can start to get into some territories that we hadn't been in previous.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he's got a swagger about him, like you said. I think he just seems like he's really in tune with the players. I mean, the first thing he does when he walks in the building is say, "Hey, Mockobee, here's your scholarship." Like he was
Yeah,
floored that Mockobee wasn't on a scholarship
right.
whenever they played him. And yeah, I think he's going to be great. It's going to be interesting, like you said, you
Yeah,
know, to see who.
one quick thing on that. I'm
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
surprised that Brom didn't give him a scholarship before he left. Wouldn't that have
right.
been a good move on the way out? So that was kind of like, and another one of those things, like as for sure as him going to Louisville, Mockobee was going to be on scholarship at some point next semester. But I was very surprised that they didn't do the right thing on the way out the doors. But I'm sure he's in a whirlwind. He's got all kinds of things going on, and
Yeah,
that probably wasn't at the forefront of his mind. But I mean, that's a heck of a way to win over your football team. You walk in the door
absolutely.
like that and invigorate those guys. So that was awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he can do. We've already got some good defensive pieces returning next year, like Sanusi Kane, who led the team in tackles,
Yep.
assisted and by himself as well. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. And so, just real quick before we wrap up here, we talked about him needing an offensive coordinator. Who is somebody you would like to see as offensive coordinator at Purdue?
Well, they've already thrown out the couple of names that I think everyone's calling for Shepard to come back.
Yeah,
a guy like Malzahn, he had a good offense down in Auburn, but I think he's still head coaching at UCF, so we probably won't have enough money and enough pool to get a guy like that. But
Yeah.
I think that we still got to continue to have an innovative offense, and based on what Walters was talking about, he wants to be able to run the football. He also wants a mobile quarterback. It sounds like, which I would love to see. Pocket passing quarterbacks. That's probably more so the cradle of quarterbacks. They got that nice little nest that they're sitting back there cooking defenses. But I would love to see a guy who's got a little bit of a dual threat guy. So maybe we get something going towards there. And we also got the kid, Mr. Football, which I don't know what type of legs he's got. But so I guess I think our top would be Shepard. And I think that we've got like 1.5 million extra money to give to the assistant. So that to me is a big enough pool. You bring a guy like him in for an associate head coach as well as an OC, and you give him the reins, or maybe you
Oh, you're good. I can still hear you.
Oh, sorry. I just cussed on this thing. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I'm getting a FaceTime call.
All good.
It disappeared. Hold on. Let me catch my track again. I'm back. Okay. So again, someone like that, someone that can keep the offense going and kind of create their own identity. And I'd like to continue to see us run the football, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree, though. I think Shep would be a great – what's that?
I said some technical difficulties over here for a second.
It's all good. You should see when we're in on like our when we're all just hanging out and like before we go live, it's a mess. Somebody's microphone's not working. Somebody, you can't hear them. It's always something or other. So no worries at all. But yeah, offensive coordinator would love to see Shepard. I was telling somebody last night during the podcast, I think that in the big picture of things, I would love if Walters came in. I would love if Walters stays for a while. If stays for a long time, I would love for him to come in, send Purdue to new heights, maybe break that 8 to 9 win glass ceiling that's kind of above us, get to 10 or even 11 wins in a few years time, maybe 4 or 5 years. And then let's say he does go somewhere, maybe an SEC schools offers him, maybe, and who knows what the dynamic or landscape of college football is going to look like in 4 or 5 years, because it's changed so much, I feel like, in just the last 2. But, let's say he does leave and we've got Shepard that's been on the staff. He was on the staff with Brom. He's offensive coordinator and calling the plays as with Walters. I think that would be a great next step transition into somebody who'd probably.
You're already thinking next steps after Walters. He hadn't even had his day one at the office yet. We're talking.
I know. I'm just saying. Everybody says nobody's loyal anymore, so I'm just preparing myself for heartache. But no, I would
that's what we got to stop doing as fans. I think, especially there's always. I think Purdue. Everyone does in the country, but it seems that we have this idea that, and you've been a Purdue fan longer than I've even been a Purdue fan, so I'll give you that. You've been through the ups and the downs. But I think we'll give this guy a chance, and I hope and I urge everybody out there, we can't fall off the wagon after year one. Now, ultimately, he came in, he says, this isn't a rebuild. This is basically a reboost. We got good players. We're at a Big Ten championship game. We're reloading. This is not a reload. We're reloading. So I think that everyone has to be patient. It was going to be a tough schedule next year with Brom here and not here. So that's inevitable. I think it'll be a good season. I think that we're going to see a much different product on the defensive side of the ball. And you got to think about who he's going to be able to go hit in the transfer, especially this late in the game. That's something that kind of bothers me. When is early signing day? It's got to be coming up here soon. Less than a week.
I want to say it's like the 21st, maybe.
21st. So yeah, we're fast approach a week away right now. So he's got to hit that transfer portal pretty quickly. And maybe he brings some grad transfer guys out of Illinois. There's a lot of cards in the deck.
Yeah, so. I think Witherspoon is who's one of their good DBs. I think he's a junior right now, so maybe get him to come over.
Yeah, he may have. I think he tweeted something at Walters today too. Just a congratulations or something. But to me, that means yo, congratulations. Throw me a bone. Let me come out there.
Yeah, and I think I saw the number one athlete in Illinois, who's like a 4-star athlete recruit coming out of high school. He reposted he quoted the tweet with Walters coming to Purdue. So you never know what's going to happen. Like everybody said, he's a great recruiter. I think Belima said he can recruit pretty well in any environment. You put him in any scenario and he can recruit. So a lot of hope there, but that's a big part of that, I think, is getting his guys, getting his supporting staff, his offensive coordinator, if he does go for a defensive coordinator or if he's calling the plays. I would love to see him just be a full-on head coach and have somebody else take that over, and maybe he just gives his input.
So is this Drew Brees thing confirmed?
Yeah, they confirmed it on Black and Gold. He's gonna be he's
Is
gonna
this like
help out with like the quarterbacks.
is this a job interview? Maybe he could be our next OC.
You never know.
Wouldn't
I don't
people
know.
love that? I think you'd have if he was willing to sign on, but then again, he's been through this so many years. He probably is happy to be hanging out with his family again and get some time with that. But could you imagine?
Yeah.
That'd be a hell of a way to recruit guys. You just bring Drew Brees in your living room and
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're a
Purdue.
quarterback. You're like, you're a 4 or 5-star quarterback. Drew Brees walks into your house. Game over.
That's
Game
sold.
over.
That's sold. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
think I hope maybe he even stays on as an analyst role. Maybe he has some sort of connection with the program moving forward after this. But I think that that's an awesome way to, again, harness a lot of support within those walls. And that's the thing we got to do. We got to love on those guys and keep them in the building in these times.
Yeah,
We don't want these guys to start getting skittish and start trying to scatter.
yeah, absolutely. And I love that Walters wants all the alumni to be around all the time. I think that's such a good look. Like, you imagine you're walking on a recruiting visit and you've got like Ryan Kerrigan, Kawan Short, Ricardo Allen,
Markell Jones,
Markell Jones, DJ Knox, David Yancey, all these guys, D'Angelo Yancey. I mean, all
David
these guys,
Blau.
David Blau.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, have those guys just walking around, hanging out. That's that's a huge statement.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so hopefully that can, and then with the new stadium updates that we're getting in
Oh
the
yeah.
fall, the
Yeah.
tunnel, the kind of the wrapped around bowl type feel. So there's a lot to look forward to with Purdue. I think he's got a lot of great things that he can sell to people. Like you said, if Breeze does become a part of the staff in one way or another, I think that's a great selling point for recruits. So yeah, just kind of a wait and see now. It sucks that this is all happening now, and we have to wait until August to see the product out on the field, or September. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but
Markell. Sorry, go ahead.
I also kind of wonder what kind of engagement and involvement. Maybe he spoke on it. I didn't get a chance to watch the entire Q&A session. What's his involvement going to be like during this time between? Is he going to be out recruiting, finding a staff primarily, and let the old guys do their thing, or what do you know about that?
Yeah, so in the press conference, he said that right now he's a solo man. So it's him, and he's got the recruiting. The recruiting guys are still here that were on staff with Brom. They're still here, but it's as far as like his own guys, it's just him right now. And so I think as soon as that conference is wrapping up, he was getting ready to go out on the road and start recruiting guys. And I think um, one guy that he had offered while he was at Illinois, he offered again as the Purdue head coach. I can't remember what his name is, but he's I think a commit to Auburn right now. But that would be a great flip. You flip that guy from Auburn to Purdue, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now it's just him, but hopefully he can get his staff in soon. It sounded like the way he was talking, it sounded like he already kind of has a short list or guys that he wants to get in touch with to fill
Right.
those roles. So we'll see. I think I was reading something today. It could be, for offensive coordinator, it could be Jamarcus Shepard. It could be, what's his name? Dooley. He was a head coach at Tennessee for a while, but now he's like an offensive analyst for Alabama.
Yeah.
They've got connections. I think they were at Mizzou for a little bit together. Jeff Scott, who was the wide receiver coach / offensive coordinator when Clemson had like Watson and all those guys there, who was the head coach at South Florida for a couple of years. So yeah, it's all up in the air right now.
Yeah.
It's giving me gray hairs, man. I'm like, I'm checking my phone all the time, trying to see what's going on. But
Yeah.
yeah, exciting stuff, man. Exciting. It's a great time to be a Boilermaker. I mean,
It definitely is. And I don't have any insider information. All of my plugs have slid off to Louisville. So the only person I got in house right now is DJ, and hopefully he stays around. So
yeah.
you'll know as soon as I know. But it is definitely an exciting time, and that's the thing. It's such a great time, and everyone said it. We're in such a better position than we were in 15 and 16 whenever Hazel had just gotten fired. So I'm super excited for the future. I think we're gonna surprise a lot of people, and but just don't get nervous. Don't get nervous in the beginning. It's not going to be a Picasso overnight. So
Oh, no. I'm not nervous about like having a great year next year. I think next year, no matter who was in charge, was going to be I know we don't like the term rebuild, but we're losing like 11 or 10 guys on defense. We're losing
Yep.
3 key pieces on offense. So it was going to be a different team.
Right.
Tough schedule as well. And so I hope that Walters stays here for as long as possible. I just
Yep.
hope that my worry is that he's going to have really a lot of success really fast and then, maybe peace out to a bigger school. But also let's change the
Yeah.
narrative of how Purdue's looked at and let's be that school that people want to
Yeah.
come to and stay at. So,
Yeah.
it's all about changing the narrative. And I think Walters is the guy that can do that.
I agree. And part of me was thinking though today, other than having a great football program, a good athletic department, and all these types of things, I mean, I think we are at a sort of a disadvantage. Just the area of the country we're in. We're in West Lafayette, Indiana. I mean, you do have Chicago right there, but again, a lot of these guys, maybe they want these big time, high profile jobs, and we just have to do. And maybe he'll get it done in his tenure here, but make this a big time, high profile job, like
Yeah.
in Alabama, like at Clemson. So that's the challenge there. And then creating an atmosphere in the stadium with the new enclosed south end zone with the tunnel, which I think is going to be huge and it'll be a really
It's going to
good
be
recruiting
awesome.
tool. I'm hoping for some lights and some speakers and just all kinds of like dope stuff in the tunnel. So I think that I'm already knowing based on the presser how Mike Berghoff and Bobinski are
Oh, yeah.
basically giving him the keys and the checkbook, and that's huge because that's always sort of been a disadvantage at times. Just
Yeah.
how much money we have to give out to these assistants and to put into the program, but they've bought in. And I don't know if they have an award for AD of the year, but if they do, I think Bobinski should be up for it.
Oh, absolutely. And so you were talking about like all the renovations to the stadium. When we had Charles Towardzo Jr. on here a couple weeks
Yep.
ago, and he's a great guy to have on here. And we were talking about all the updates to the stadium, and I pitched him my idea that I told you about, like having Thunderstruck play by AC/DC and having people chant Boilers. He was like, "We need to get you in front of somebody," and that's what I
I'm,
just need to
I'm trying
get
to
that
tell you.
going. Yeah,
Well, it seems like this guy this new coach might be receptive to that type of
yeah,
information from the fans. So this might be the prime and ideal time to go do that. So you might
yeah,
reach out to him. And I also
ab-
saw somebody, and they made another good point. Can we get rid of shout at some point? Can we do something else
absolutely.
in the fourth quarter? Do we
Yeah,
have any
I would
ideas
love.
for that? Is it going to be Thunderstruck? What are we going to do there?
I don't know. I don't have any ideas, honestly. I think there's a lot of stuff that you could do that it's just like, man, you think about games where maybe it's not a close game and they're like, all right,
Right.
everybody, let's get everybody pumped up and
And it's bad.
play
Yeah.
shout. It's like,
Yeah.
come on, man. Like
Yeah.
it looks cool whenever it's a games like Penn State where there's people like, busting out of the stadium like a can of biscuits. Oh, Mo Bamba,
I love that idea. I
that's a
love that suggestion.
great third quarter
I
song.
still remember Mo Bamba playing whenever we beat Ohio State every
Oh,
like third down or something. Yeah, it was
That's
lit.
a that would be great. Yeah, Mo Bamba. Yeah,
Bring it back.
that'd be awesome. But yeah, man. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time and everything. I know you're a busy guy, so I'll go ahead and wrap us up here. But Markell, just thank you so much for taking the time to join in and talk about Mockobee, the Purdue football program as a whole, and kind of the future of Purdue football. So it's an exciting time to be a Boilermaker, and we always love having you on here. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you guys. See you next time.
All right, Boiler up.
Boiler out.